I'm going to start with what I call the salsa and sauce garden. This is the first garden that I planned when I sat down with my graph paper and my seeds and just my imagination and everything that I had read over the past several years, and I plotted out these 3 rows. That's all this is right now, is 3 rows of tomatoes, tomatillos, 2 different kinds of peppers, onions, marigolds, and herbs. So this tomato here and the one next to it I bought from a garden center because I did not start my tomatoes soon enough. And when it was time for everything to go in the ground, I did not think my tomatoes were going to make it or that they were going to produce anything this year. They were so small still. So I got this yellow plum. They didn't have any regular red plums where I shopped at the local garden center. So when these ripen, they turn yellow. I've already had 2 turn yellow and I was able to taste them, and they were very tasty. Now these guys, it's hard to see, but just a couple days ago they were overflowing into the grass and I had to cut them back. They got out of hand because I just wasn't pruning them often enough. They're growing so incredibly fast. And here's an example of that. I just came through 2 days ago and caught everything that was in the V's, and already look how long this one is. It wasn't there 2 days ago. So these guys are getting out of control really fast. I have to keep up with them at least every other day, come through, prune out all the extra branches. And I didn't do that enough at the beginning, so that is something I will want to do differently next year. To have the best tomato harvest, I really needed to keep these extra branches from forming here. So we have our main branch, and then you can see this one has 1, 2, 3, and it used to have 4, but I cut that one a couple days ago in order to free up some space. Really, we just want the one main branch going up rather than all these extra branches going out. But it's too late to cut those. They're already producing. That's where most of my tomatoes are, actually. So I'm trying to keep up with it now after the fact. The same with this one. Got out of control early, and so you can see it actually has 2 stems, 2 main stems going up. So there was only so much I could do once it got out of hand. Yeah, I should probably come back through and prune this again this weekend. Next to those, I also bought these from the garden center. These are going to be orange tomatoes when they ripen. The garden center didn't have any regular red paste or sauce tomatoes. They had like the big boys. I just feel like those are not very good. I don't really like how they've been modified. I don't like their final flavor. So I ended up with orange and yellow from the garden center. I've netted our parsley, and that's going really well. Nothing has nested in there yet. That is the only thing in this section that I've netted. I'm letting everything else just survive as best it can, and it's been surviving really well. I bought basil from the garden center because none of my herb starters worked from seed. I tried to start everything from seed this year, and I had a lot of fails, and the herbs were one of them. But from the garden center, I got 2 basil, and they've been really thriving. I go through every 2 days, and I'm not going to today because I did it yesterday. But I pick off all the tops that look like they're starting to become flowers, because I don't want it to flower. I don't want it to go to seed. And the more I pick that off, actually the denser the plant gets, and the more basil I get, and then the more I need to come through and pick it off. So it's producing more. I actually have 2 of them because they go really well with tomatoes. I have 2 basil, and that is too much for us at this time. But when I do start making my sauces, I know that I'm going to want this basil. So I've been picking it and freezing it so that it is not going to waste at all. Before I started freezing it, I would just pick off the flower tops, and I'd go throw it in the compost and the chickens would eat it, which is fine as well. But really I would like to be the one eating it. And this is an example of the tomatoes that I started from seed. You can tell how much smaller they are from the ones that I got from the store. Those are from the store. These were from my house. I'm hoping that with our greenhouse next year, we'll be able to get these guys started sooner, and then I would be able to get more started. But they are producing, so they weren't a fail, even though they started later than I wanted them to. They're giving me San Marzanos. All the seeds that I started are San Marzanos. They are paste and sauce tomatoes, so they're gonna make some really awesome sauce. I don't think I'm gonna go for paste this year. I just don't have enough plants, and that requires a lot of tomatoes. But I am getting quite a bit out of this guy, so that's exciting. My seed started tomatoes are coming through for me, and so are my tomatillos. There are 3 here. It's hard to tell because they're merging into one giant plant. And then there are 2 over there in the sun. You might not be able to see it too well. I did not think these guys were going to pull through, just like my tomatoes. When it was time for everything to go in the ground in mid-May, they were no more than 4 inches, maybe 5 inches tall. Again, that was mid-May. They were 4 to 5 inches tall, just one weak little stem with a few leaves on it. And now it is July 9th, and this is what they look like. So as soon as they went in the ground, they just took off. They're so happy to be in this soil. We had to bring in soil from a local farmer who had some rotted manure that we were able to put on the ground. We ended up putting down 8 tons of rotted manure in this whole garden, and then we still had to get extra soil from the garden centers because we needed to amend this. It's all clay. We needed to amend it too much, but it turned out to be worth all that work and money because we're getting a lot of fruit on our plants. Even this pepper, this is a wax pepper. I got this from the garden center. They only had wax peppers and jalapenos. And I did want the jalapenos. That's actually what I had originally started from seed. Here's another one. These wax peppers are prolific. I've never grown wax peppers before. It's been producing since, I think they already each had a pepper on them when I put them in the ground in May, and they've never stopped producing peppers. I have to come out and pick them every couple of days. Yesterday I picked 8. I have 3 of these plants. I picked 8 that were ready to go, and there's already several on this one that are going to be ready to go in a couple days. It's more than I can really do anything with. I might start pickling them because these wax peppers don't have much flavor. I don't think I will grow them next year. I was just curious. I was looking for some different peppers from the garden center since I was having to buy peppers anyway. And so I got these because this is what they had, and they're really mild. They're the peppers they put in the box with the Papa John's pizzas, and there's a reason they're in there because they don't have a whole lot of flavor and definitely don't have a whole lot of spice. This is one of the jalapenos I got from the garden center, and it is finally, as of this week, producing some fruit. Just this one. I don't think there are any on this one, and I have a couple more in the garden. They're scattered throughout the garden. I've only seen these 3 jalapenos so far, so compare that to the wax peppers. The jalapenos are really far behind here in the season. So I'm hoping that when these tomatillos bust through their skins and are ready to be harvested, which there are a lot waiting in here, I'm hoping that the jalapenos actually catch up with them, because this is supposed to be my green salsa section. And the jalapenos are letting me down here.